Well, hello, Redeem Her Time community. It's Lissa. It is 2025. Happy New Year. I love the fact that a new year is just kind of sometimes like a reset. A lot of us took a break over Thanksgiving, Christmas, into the new year and that type of thing as well. And so this is a great time to renew our mission, our message, our method, what it is that God has called us to. And that's why I love doing these business directory spotlights, because this is where I get to bring you up front and put the spotlight on you and share with our community about who you are and what you do and what you're called to. So if you have not scheduled one yet, what are you waiting for, girl? Head to redeemhertime.com/directory, and that will allow you to schedule a time. I'll send you just a really light structure for us to follow, and we just get to have an amazing conversation. So give me just a minute. I'm welcoming Michelle Rupp, and she is just getting in as a speaker on the back end. So we will have her here. There she is. Michelle, good morning. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay,
yes.
Terrific.
Yeah. Love when technology works, right?
Yes. Yes.
And today I'm loving, I don't have to leave my house. It's really cold out there. I was just getting my dogs in and thought, really nice that I don't have to go anywhere. So I love
we have snow melting. So yeah, it's very nice.
Right? Yes. Well, this is really fun. What we do in the community is highlight people that are in business and what it is we're called to. I'm so over all of those networking groups like on Facebook that you're supposed to be able to connect with people, but then you get like slapped on the hand or put in like timeout if you accidentally kind of maybe mention the fact that maybe you sell something or do something to serve somebody. And I'm like, hello, what is the point? So I am out here to say, like, this business directory is different. Like, I want you permission and direction to talk about who you are and what you do. So let's start there, Michelle. You and I got to meet in person several months ago. Time has flown since then, and so the weather has changed. But yeah, tell us about who you are and what you do as Michelle Rupp in life and business.
Okay, well, yes, my name is Michelle Rupp. I am an Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist. I help small and medium-sized businesses, both online and brick and mortar, get earned media coverage that they deserve in their local media. I believe in the power of television so much that I even had my own heart surgery televised when I was a reporter. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, most people can't say that, right? Like, I'm thinking of like those games you play that, it's like, never have I ever, or whatever. Like,
yes.
And you guys, did you see the Emmy Award sitting behind her? Like, I love the fact that, Michelle, you led with that, because that does speak to what God has equipped you to do and the way in which he's equipped you to do it. So, yay.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So you mentioned some words. The teacher in me is coming out right now because I want to make sure that we're all speaking the same language.
Sure.
You mentioned earned media, I think it was, or earned something. So go back and say that word again and tell us, what does that mean and why does that matter?
Earned media is a free interview about your business or your area of expertise. And that when you think of television, a lot of people think of the advertising and the commercial, the buying of the 30-second spot, or everyone's familiar with the, $30 million 30-second spot for the Super Bowl commercials.
Right. They were like, whose great idea was that they thought that was going to sell something?
So that is one form of advertising. Earned media is another form of advertising. Both get your message in front of local viewers.
Yeah, earned. Okay, so it's not paid, but you've had to do something. You're not just showing up and being like, I want to be on TV. You obviously have to do something, which we'll get into in just a minute. But first, I want to kind of focus just on, your vision for helping people to do this. I'm sure it just didn't come out of nowhere, and you kind of alluded a little bit to some of your story. So whatever Cliff Note version of like, how did you get from, to doing what you're doing today, I think it's really helpful for us to understand more about what you're doing and how you're helping people in this area.
Absolutely. My parents owned a family-owned hardware store in our hometown when I was growing up, and our hardware store was one of about 6 in town. And for context, this was the 80s, the 1980s, or the late 1900s, as I like to say, but it was in the 80s.
Right. So
And
retro.
yes. So we had this store for that was about a decade. And little by little, we began to notice that the big box stores were coming into the market, and little by little, the mom and pop stores were closing. And I remember very vividly when my parents brought my, at the time, my brother and sister, I now have another sibling since that time, but at that moment in time, it was just my brother and my sister. They brought us all into the living room to have a family meeting and to let us know that the hardware store was going to be closing. And that was very impactful. There was only one other local hardware store that remained in the town, and it went out of business shortly thereafter. So as a teenager in high school, that was very impactful. And then my trajectories took me into television, and I worked in television for over 20 years. I still do work in television now. And one of my first jobs was a producer. I was called upon to create and launch a lifestyle show that just celebrated their 25th anniversary this year. And that show centered around local businesses. And earned media for local businesses. And my heart for local businesses, it was, in my mind, how can I give this platform to business owners in hopes that their business continues to thrive and they don't, for whatever reason, have to shut their doors. And so I did that, was a producer, was a reporter, was a main anchor, all the things, left the business, went into the PR world, went into the corporate PR world, did not enjoy that, and really had a moment with the Lord where I was very, what do you want me to do? I've gone as far as I can go corporate. I've made it to the executive level, and this is not sustainable, and I do not enjoy this. This is not how my story ends. And I remembered thinking back of when I was happy and when I enjoyed doing what I was doing, and that was being a reporter, and that was being a producer, and that was giving the opportunity for businesses to share their stories. And I began to dream and create about taking all of my industry knowledge and putting it together and packaging it in such a way to help small businesses who may not have the advertising dollar budget to spend money on commercials, but yet they could benefit from the free advertising. All right, then how do we craft your pitch? How do we craft your hook? How do we get the attention of your local media so that you get a piece of that pie? And then once you have that, that gold standard, once you've been on television, because it is the gold standard, then it becomes easier to have more television opportunities, radio opportunities, podcast opportunities now. And about a year ago, a friend of mine who grew up in our neighborhood, I ran into him, and he said, hey, what are you doing now? And I told him, and he stopped and he said, what would a business like yours, what could that have done for your parents' store? And I said, that's exactly why I'm doing it. That's what my heartbeat is. So at my core, I have a passion and heartbeat for small businesses and entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I'm like getting chills here. Like, I love like hearing stories like this, where it's like this, like breadcrumb trail, like God's been like putting all these things in your path, even that experience that seemed like it was a really bad thing, really God used for, his glory and the good of so many people. And then all the different experiences that he gave you and training, and just the way that he equipped you and the way he does this in our lives, right? And then pulls it all together. And it's like, oh my goodness, it's like, this was made for me. Yes, it was, and so I love that. And I want to dive into the small business owner and all of that. But before we do that and really look at your mission to help them, like I want two things came to mind as you were talking. Number one, a lot has changed since the late 1900s. Like
it's correct.
how we do business and for good. I mean, like
now.
there are things, I mean, my kids often say like, I'm so jealous you grew up in the 80s, mom, because I was born in 73. So 80s was like my, junior high school or whatever, right? And so they watch like Stranger Things and they're like, how cool would that have been to like live that life? But anyway, in business, obviously things are so different right now than they were back then. And what your parents experienced, I feel like only has just continued to go is like these big box stores, these big brands, I mean, I remember over Black Friday month, this was not Black Friday day. You and I grew up in an era where literally I did not know what was going to be on the Black Friday special until Thanksgiving morning when the newspaper came and we went through the ads while the turkey was cooking. That was how we found out. And then you went and stood in line.
You made your game plan.
The limited quantity of whatever you saw in the ad. And the whole thing was you didn't even know you wanted it until you saw it the day before. And now all of a sudden you're like sacrificing sleep to get it. So anyway, all that to say, I had this thought this year during Black Friday month, like how does a little guy who doesn't have this giant brand that like it's a household name, who doesn't have this like marketing budget that's like crazy, who doesn't have like, like all of this stuff, like what's the challenge that small businesses, whether in brick and mortar, I work with brick and mortar businesses as well as a lot of online businesses, like it's almost like we're kind of like, I'm here, like Horton Hears a Who, and he's like on that little tiny thing and he's like, I'm here, like, so just tell me a little bit about like, I guess just maybe what are the challenges that small businesses are experiencing in this day and age now in the 2020s, and how we should sell ourselves short to, well, I'm not a big brand or I don't have a big budget, so therefore I'm stuck with social. Because I think that's what we're told is social is where you have to be. Unless you're like this huge brand, then you can go, be on TV or do advertising, in those ways.
We live in such a time where there are so many platforms. There are so many tools for awareness and spotlighting and education, and social media is a great tool. And there would be people back in the 80s that would think, oh, social media, like we would love that. It is a great tool, but television is still the gold standard. And for online businesses, brick and mortar businesses, you still have a voice, and television further connects you to your community. There is something credible about being able to put that banner on your website as seen on TV. It has a little more of a credibility ring than as seen on Instagram. Everybody's
on Instagram, right? And we all know the algorithm shows you to like 1% to 3% of your audience. So nobody sees you anyway, even if you are there.
So getting, some people will ask me, well, why television? Why television? Well, you've got the opportunity for so many more viewers to even know that your business is there. I have business owners of brick and mortars that it makes the hair on the back of their neck stand up when they've been in a community for 7, 8, 9, 10 years and someone walks in and says, I never knew you were here. I drive past you every day, never knew you were here. And it's just cringe. For the entrepreneurs who are online, I love introducing that element to local news because we all live in an Amazon society. We all live in a online world society. And so being able to take an online business and crafting what their sweet spot is and sharing their story to an audience on television, where the only way they can find you is on your website or by following you on social media. That's a real unique opportunity in and of itself, because again, it's making the way for other ways of doing business, not just brick and mortars. Brick and mortars are great, but this works both ways. It also works with online businesses too.
Okay, so this is going to segue into our next question. Like, obviously, we've already laid the framework. Like, it's very clear that God has uniquely called and equipped you for this work, right? And
Yeah.
you've even talked about your best client or customer being either in one of two buckets, either a brick and mortar or
Mhm.
being an online person. And like you said, like a brick and mortar person, well, I guess maybe let me kind of ask my question, and then I'll give a little bit of why I'm asking.
Okay.
So I really want to speak to, kind of the why makes sense in community for the brick and mortar, right? Like one of my CEOs owns a boutique here in the very small town that we live in.
Mhm.
And, so yeah, for her to be on local TV or radio, like totally makes sense because everybody listening, like can literally drive to her store and shop. And, she's got like instant, credibility and exposure and things like that. Talk to us a little bit about the online person, because I feel like so many more of my clients and people who are in this community have some kind of an online business. So like, for example, as an online coach, I have 2 clients that actually live in my little bitty town and everybody else is everywhere else. And I love the fact that I feel like I get to travel from like California to like Virginia every day without leaving my house, especially in the cold.
Yes.
Okay, so like for somebody like, let's use me as an example, and you and I have already had this conversation, so I know your answer, but I want everyone else to hear this, right? So little Alyssa, who's in Mount Vernon, Illinois, in the middle of nowhere, why does she want to get on local TV? Because I don't even know if the people who live in my town really would want or need what I have, and they can't. I'm certainly not going to give them my address to drive to my house to have a conversation, So
Right.
I kind of speak a little bit more heavily to that online entrepreneur and why local media is a good place for her to start.
Well, in the context of the scenario you just laid out, you and your community, and you don't want strangers coming to your house, knocking on the door. And you said something very interesting, that you don't know if anyone in your community would want or need what it is you have. The beautiful thing about television is how wide that net is cast.
Mm.
And so you're right. There may not be anyone in your immediate community. I find that hard to believe, but for this analogy, there may not be anyone in your community, but the next county over could be praying for a business like yours. 3 counties over could be praying for a business like yours. Maybe they don't even know that they need you, but because now they have the awareness that you exist, they can start following you. They can start looking at what you're putting on Instagram. They can see, oh, you've got a podcast. Well, let me start listening to her podcast. And so it is another tool in that toolbox of that marketing toolbox of creating that awareness, letting people know that you live in the community that you live in. I will use the example of an online business that I'm working with, and what has drawn them to live in that community. It's easy for a brick and mortar, right?
Sure.
We want to be pillars in this community, and we're in Rotary and Kiwanis and serve on PTA. And we sponsor, fall ball. And that's why we're here in the community. Okay. But we as entrepreneurs who have online businesses and an online presence, why are we in this community? Can we do this anywhere? In some cases, that answer is yes. Okay, so if you could do it anywhere, why'd you choose to be planted where you are? Why'd you choose the community that you're in? Your Little Rock, Arkansas, your Kansas City, Kansas, your McKinney, Texas, your Albuquerque, New Mexico. Why'd you choose that location? And what anchors you to that community? Because that also is part of your story. You or I or anyone that's watching could do what we do anywhere, yet we choose to make this place home. And that says a lot about the community that we have chosen.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and it's such a great reminder that we don't know what people are praying for and where they are. And here's a way, like you said, to cast that net and put it out there. I mean, if we don't tell anybody, then the answer is always no,
That's right.
So, and you never know who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody to be like, hey, I saw this girl on TV. Hey, I heard this girl on radio. you should
Yep.
go check this out, and that can be that ripple effect, thing like that. So I'm guessing, and I know from my conversation with you, you encourage us, because I'm thinking about my audience right now, and I'm like, I can probably guarantee that slim to none of them have been on a big TV show, right? And being like,
Sure.
great, Good Morning America or something like that, right? Like the gold standard maybe of talk shows that we want to get on or whatever. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
so you're telling us like you're gonna help people start in their community ones.
Mhm.
And then from there, because I live like almost 2 hours from several, bigger towns / St. Louis, which is kind of like, a
Mhm.
smaller city type of thing. So
It's
kind
a
of
tough
starting in our
market.
like smaller community, and then that starts building credibility to be able to start doing things in those bigger areas.
It does. And one of the unique elements that I bring to the table is the television industry is such a small fraternity of individuals that I've worked with closely people that are now scattered all across the country. I have very close friends who are at different networks in New York, who are at networks in Washington, D.C. I've got contacts from coast to coast. And so part of the challenge for business owners, or for anybody for that matter, who's trying to get noticed by television is, well, but how do I get them to take a look at me? How do I get noticed? And some of that is knowing the right person to go to. And once you know that right person, that key decision maker, sometimes that information is found on the website, and sometimes you need somebody who's on the inside that says, no, pick up the phone and call, ask for whoever holds this specific position. That's what you want. But once you get to the right person, to the decision maker, they're just like you and I. And if there's viewer benefit that you bring, and you keep in mind the audience, you're not interested in the publicity that is going to bring you. You're interested in educating the viewer. Once you craft that and present it to them in such a way, a lot of times the producer or executive producer or whomever will say, yeah. Okay,
I would think they'd be like thankful. Like if they have to fill spots, it must get like stressful, like sometimes to be like, what are we going to do tomorrow at 5? We don't have somebody. So to have somebody show up in your inbox or on the phone and say, hey, I'd be willing to come do this would, be a really big thing for them.
It is very helpful because news never sleeps, and there's a constant cycle. And now we are in the age where it's a 24-hour cycle.
Yeah.
And local news stations, just in local news alone, some stations are putting 12 hours of local content. And it's just over and over and over. And so while there is some vetting of a guest, of a story, a lot of times it is your timing, it is your pitch, it is how you present yourself, and doing it all at the right person, in front of the right person. And that can be the game changer. Now, I know in a lot of communities, there may be some who are watching or listening, and they're like, yeah, that's great, Michelle. My nearest television station is an hour away.
That's me.
So my thought is, okay, and are you willing to travel? Are you willing to go an hour away? And then my second thought is, these same strategies also work with radio and also work with newspaper. And so it might be a little there. In general, they all work the same. Radio sometimes can be a little tricky because so many radio stations now are syndicated. And so like the local DJs that we grew up with may or may not exist, or they may only exist on a morning show, or they may only exist on a talk radio show. So it may be a little tricky, but by and large, these practices work across the board, whether you're dealing with television, radio, or newspaper.
Yeah. And I could see how once you get one yes, it builds your confidence. It may not be your perfect, presentation or whatever, but then it's going to help open doors to more things. And the other thing that really kind of stuck up my mind as I was listening to you talk, I thought, unlike back in the day, where if you weren't, remember when like there was a TV show you wanted to watch, you had to be in front of the TV at that time to watch that show, right? Like,
that's right.
But now
You
it's
know what I
like you could be featured on something and then get a link to it and continue to share that link out. So it's not, you're no longer, just stuck with whoever happened to be in this exact time and place, the right time and the right place to hear or see you. Now, we've got ways that we can continue to share that out there. And I'm sure with SEO and things like that, it lives on, that people can find it and those types of things as well. So that excites me, that it's not just a one and done and nobody was watching. So much for that. So I'm seeing a lot of
No,
value. Go ahead.
well, that is the single most tangible element as far as television is concerned, is that link lives forever.
Mm-hmm.
And you are able to repurpose and reuse forever and ever and ever. And because television is the gold standard, because they don't just put anyone on, it gives your business, it gives you a level of credibility that will make your peers look around and go, well, look at that. It'll make any competition that you may have in the market look around and go, well, who does she know? Well, how did he do that? And it really sets you apart. And as you said, you're able to use that link, you're able to clip it, you're able to put it on Instagram, you're able to put it on LinkedIn, you're able to put it on your website, you're able to stick it in your weekly newsletter or email. You're able to use it over and over. And even if you had an opportunity a year ago, any day, you could post on social media. Just thinking back to that time I sat down with Good Morning Arkansas, or remembering back to the segment where I taught people how to bookkeep. Whatever your zone of genius is, you can always pull that back out and remind your followers, hey, I did this.
Yeah. That's so great. So you keep setting up my next question so perfectly, Michelle. It's almost like you know how to do this interview thing, because you talked about setting us apart, right, as business owners. But my question for you is, what is it that sets you apart? Because first of all, I do think that you're probably in a very small niche, right, of people who actually do this. I don't think that it's flooded like health coaches or something like that. And yet you still are unique in the way that you teach this or approach this or support through this and that type of thing. So what is it that you would say, really sets apart the way that Michelle does it from what they may find somewhere else, or just what other people are saying or advice they're getting, whether it's well-meaning and well-educated or not?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What sets me apart is I live this lifestyle. I was in this business for 20 years. And so I know not only the ins and the outs of it, but I know that, for example, I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas, and it is rare for Little Rock to get snow. We love it when it happens. Yes, we shut everything down for a half an inch, but we love it. School's out. It's the whole thing. We last Tuesday began winter weather coverage on road conditions. Because we are a deep southern state, we don't have the equipment. And so there were a lot of concerns about what are the roads going to look like and what are they going to do for schools. This was on Tuesday. The storm was not to start until Thursday afternoon. Okay. I actually shared in my email that went out last night to my email list. One of the guys in management at one of the TV stations here said, "You are not going to believe the press releases and the pitches I'm getting from local PR agencies, and we are all weather, and that's all we're doing until the storm hits." And I said, I know. Okay, well, only someone who's been in television will know that a certain number of hours out, any email pitch that comes in about, hey, I'm a bookkeeper, hey, I'm an organizer, hey, I do this, hey, I do that, it's getting deleted. It's never getting read. It will never see the light of day. His text message confirmed that. And I shared that in my email last night. it'll never see the light of day. And so having someone who's been in the business that knows, hey, this is a good time to pitch, and also pump the brakes. Do not send a pitch. One thing I share regularly is holidays are really great days to pitch to local news, because you still have to do a newscast on a holiday. And if you are pitching to be a guest and you pitch to be on the holiday, I cannot tell you, the people, when I was a producer, the people who would offer to come be on my 9 o'clock show on Thanksgiving morning, you got in every time. And that was 5 minutes of free advertising for your small business. I don't care if you're coming in to show me how to make 3 ways of a pumpkin pie. Come on. You offered to come on the holiday. You are in. No question.
Yeah.
So it's what sets me apart from other agencies that do this is that I've been in the business and I know that cadence, and I know when is a good time to send a press release and when is a bad time, because likewise, you may be a thought leader or an expert in a particular snow blowing method, and I want to get you on TV to be able to show, hey, you don't have to have a heart attack. You don't have to wrench your back shoveling. Here's a great way to do it. So, but not every person who works at an agency that may specialize in media relations knows how to do this. Likewise, I have fought for clients on behalf of clients when the station has said no. Other people in public relation agencies would say, oh, well, Channel 7 came back and said no. When they've come back and said no to me, it's, how can we get this to a yes? Come on, I know you've got the time.
Right.
Come on. How can we, all right, if this date doesn't work for you, what about next week? And we could do it this way. I won't and don't take no for an answer, and have been successful in going to battle. Now, that's something the client's never going to know. They're never going to know that the station came back and said, no, we don't see this as a story. And then I came back and said, we sure about this? What if we framed it this way? That doesn't need to be the client's worry. So those are a couple of things that set Memorable Results Media apart from other agencies around.
Yeah. Girl, I mean, you sold yourself right there. And I already knew this coming into this conversation, so I love it. And I think about time in our business, right? And I think about how much time, like I spent over 10 years of relying on a social media algorithm, and for what little, bit of coverage I got, and just, all the different ways that people are spending so much money now to be seen on different places. And you're offering us something that doesn't sound like it takes a lot of time and doesn't cost us anything, that we can get, not only some coverage, but also start building up some of that credibility. So just this morning, I was listening to a podcast while I was getting ready, and the host was talking about the fact that most people's number one fear is public speaking. Right. So I want to end this before we let you tell us how to find you and what great things you have to offer us to get started. That I want you to speak to that woman listening who is like, yeah, but Michelle, TV, like, really? It's one thing to like hide behind an email, it's another thing to like be on a live on Facebook that, maybe somebody's going to see, maybe they're not. And so you can delete it if you want to, but like TV. So like, I want you to speak, like, what's that one thing you really want her to know or to shift in her belief in order for her to really see and experience the opportunity that this earned media could really be for her and for her business?
Yes, definitely. What I would speak to her and I would say, first of all, you are worthy and your business is worthy, and you have a story, you have a business story that the world needs to hear. The second thing I would say is we spend our day like this, day in and day out. Hey, we're having a sale. Come on down. Take a look at what we've got. When you're on camera in a television studio, you're having a conversation. You're not looking at the camera wherever it is on this thing. You're not looking at the camera. You are looking to the person who is interviewing you and you're having a conversation, and the cameras, all 3, 4, 5 of them, are eavesdropping on that conversation. And when I work with a client, we do media prep. We put together the questions and we send those to the host so that the business owner, for example, isn't, look, you've got enough to worry about. Your hands are going to be sweating. Your armpits are going to be sweating. You're going to be sweating. You want to make sure you make a great impression. I don't want your questions to be what really throws you off. You're going to know those answers like muscle memory. We're going to take a deep breath and we're going to do it. And then people are going to be like, girl, how'd you get that? We saw you.
They're not even going to care what you say. They're just going to care that you were there and they were on TV. And then, you know, like, it's so interesting. We think everybody's looking at us and they're not.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right. Well, I love this. And I love that you were here inside the Redeemer Time community where, as I started off, I'm giving everyone permission and direction to pitch yourself and shine your light and share what it is that God has uniquely called and gifted you to do. That is making a difference in the lives of other people. And so that is so apparent today. And I love this. And I know there are going to be people who hear this, you know, for years to come that are going to be like, okay, gosh, I never would have even considered it, but what, maybe. So tell us, what is a good next step if someone wants to connect with you and start, you know, taking baby steps maybe, or maybe jump in this area of earned media?
So the best place to connect is on my website, and that is memorableresultsmedia.com. memorableresultsmedia.com. Memorable results, that's what I provide the client. Memorable results, that's an easy way to remember it. I'm also on Instagram. Would love to connect with you there. But if you go to my website, on the homepage, you're going to notice on the right-hand corner a gold button that says complimentary call. And if at any point you want to have a complimentary call for about 30 minutes and we discuss your business and we talk about what local or regional television might look like for you, book that call at your convenience when you're ready. I would love to have that conversation. There are also a couple of other things on my website. At the top, there's a banner to access how to write a press release. And there might even still be a pop-up just on how to get on my email list, period, because I send an email every Monday called Mondays with Michelle, and it is packed full of information on when to send press releases, how to pitch, when are appropriate times, what's trending in news right now. A lot of people think local news is a dying form of media, and I have clients that sell out events that would tell you absolutely not. All we did was go on television. It's not dying. It's not dying here. We're great. Right. So I'd love the opportunity to connect.
Yeah. And I will just say, I have done all the above. I got on a call with Michelle. I have also gotten that video and walked through that, and it was so comprehensive and had such great information. And also, I opened your email this morning, and it was talking about different themes for different months to give you ideas for how to re-pitch yourself or when to pitch and tie it into something that those producers might be thinking about. So yes, yes, and yes, this will be a great, what we call around here, RODI, return on time invested, to connect with Michelle and see, yeah, what's the possibility, and see how God might want to use some bigger platforms that you didn't think you were big enough to be on, to actually start really growing your reach and building your confidence in what he's called you to. So thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate you, and all of that. So I always love to kind of like end these conversations with a little bit, about you. And sure. When you're looking at your return on time invested, right? Like as you're looking at a new year, right? We're sitting in, kind of the beginning part of a new year and all of that. And there's so many different directions you could go. Like, what is maybe one thing, maybe specifically in your business, or it could be in your life, that you're really wanting to invest time in the year ahead? And why does seeing a good return on that time invested really make a difference for you? Why does it matter?
Mm-hmm. I really enjoy learning a lot. And what is at the top of my list to mark off at some point in 2025, although I do think it'll be sooner rather than later, is launching a podcast. I really have been working diligently on learning the ins and outs, because I'll be doing it on my own. You know, when we were in television, we had people who did audio and video and everything for us. We just had to write the script and hand it over and then deliver it. And so it has stretched me to learn, okay, sure, you could hire it out. Also, you are equally capable of doing that. And so I'm excited to do that. That on the business side. On the personal side, I have had in place my morning routine for the last year, and I love it, and it sets the cadence for my day. And these last couple of weeks, I mean, since we started the new year, just being able to take that into a deeper level, and seeing how it makes the day ebb and flow a lot more peacefully. And so those are two things, both on the business side and on the personal side.
Both amazing investments of time that will have a good ROI, a good return on time invested, because they both matter. And I'm excited to hear about your podcast. So please make sure that you share with us here inside the community when that comes out and when you're open for guests and things like that, because we have an opportunity in here to do swaps. Or just to pick ourselves to be on people's podcasts and things like that, or to look for guests. So I think this is why I'm wanting to build the community. Yeah, just to give free resources, you know, like this, to connect with other, you know, amazing Christian women that, you know, are out there trying to do this thing too. So I love that. And cheering you on for your morning refill is what we call it around here, because that time does set up the rest of our day. I just posted on Facebook this morning, like, my CEO meeting with God in the morning is like my favorite time of day. I don't care how much I woke up in the middle of the night, like when that alarm is going off, I'm like, Jesus and coffee, let's go. Like, can't wait to get there. And so I love that you're making your morning time, a really key element to your day. So thank you so much for blessing us and challenging us and helping us to think differently about something that maybe we've never really thought about before, being something that was for us. And I know it's just going to bear a lot of fruit and a lot of businesses this year. So appreciate you investing in us today, Michelle.
Thank you for having me. The pleasure's been all mine. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.